Good day, and welcome to Masonic Curators, our 100th episode. Now, for some of you who are watching us closely, you might say, Key, how is this your 100th episode? Well, simply put, these two gentlemen here, Right Worshipful Mike and Right Worshipful Brian, came up with an idea, I think it was August of 2021. And talked to me and John about it, and to take over the YouTube channel, Masonic Curators, and continue with the same format, but twist it up a little bit, where we would then go to various Masonic buildings and put on small episodes on artifacts of district. We got the blessing from Brother R.H. Johnson to take over the channel, and in October of 2021, we were right here in Compton. So with that, we want to welcome you. This is more of an episode where we're going to talk a little bit about what we're all about, how we begun, and then maybe where we're going to be going. So I'll turn it over to the other guys to start it up.
Well, I think John would be the right person. I think one of our early meetings with our group was, wow, a long time ago at this point. It was at the Lepo Shrine in a minute.
We did. Yeah, that was a number of years ago. I had originally met Yuki. We had talked on Facebook for a while, and then we met at a Lodge of Instruction where you would give your presentation. I recall you had the Midland Chamber paintings and an American flag you had rescued from somewhere. And then we got to Ryan and Chuck and started this group that we changed the name of every time we met. Okay, that's been one was with the Massachusetts Masonic Historical Preservation Society. But we just started going to different lodges. We came up the Shrine, we did down to Appa and the Old Breaking Bridge, and just started touring around.
Yeah, we went to Milford we did. Their shop. And that's the other thing. Not to break off from John here. We should introduce ourselves because we have two guys who you haven't seen, and our cameraman's going to do a quick wave by. But we got an empty seat here. We're doing the empty episode today, empty chair episode. Chuck, unfortunately, is another member of our crew who couldn't be here today. So, again, y'all have seen the videos. Y'all know my name.
And you've been a past master of multiple lodges.
Yeah, but this isn't about me. This is about us.
Well, you're introducing this.
It's giving your...
Yes, I'm a past master of 6 Masonic Lodge, and I'm a past High Priest. I'm a past Illustrious Master, past Commander. I'm a Knight of York Cross of Honor. I'm District Grand Historian. I'm a past District Junior Grand Warden of the Cambridge 2nd Masonic District, and so on and so on and so forth. I served as Commander, High Priest, and Master at the same time. Something I would not recommend anybody to do. But besides me, that's what, like I said, Chuck wouldn't be here today, so we got the empty chair for him. Randy, you want to do a wave by and say hi real quick to the folks? So at least they get to see your face once. I know you don't like to be on film.
Hello, my name's Ray Anderson. You can't already hear.
Okay, you're excused, thank you. So who are you?
I'm John Wilder. I'm the historian of Lepo Shrine. Since we've started, I've also taken on the title of historian of the Glory Commandery and Lux Templar of Massillon, Rhode Island. I'm involved heavily in the Shrine Commandery. I really pass nothing. I'm proud of it. I've always been involved in the history of pretty much every organization I joined. Just something that's I've taken interest of, and like it or not, we're standing on the shoulders of many people who've come before us. So I think it's important to study the stories. And let's just face it, they don't make stuff like they used to.
No.
So old stuff is cool.
Yes. Yes. White Jarzbeck, past master of Brigham Lodge, and past junior grand warden, and the chairman of the Massachusetts Education and Training Committee. And an international Masonic speaker. I guess you would say that. Yes.
Brian Simmons. I am a past master for the Ezekiel Bakes and the chair of the 250 commemoration thing for the round.
And drum roll, please.
We had a conference a few years ago called Masonic Curators.
And it branched out across the country and introduced also to people to all new ways of subject.
Yes. Which is still being done today in Masonic cons. Which you also, along with Mike, stick at a number of.
I have.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Rob Jackson, past master, Montgomery Lodge, located in Milford, Massachusetts. The newest member to the team, and I like hanging around with these folks. Just started pairing along just to learn more about the different lodges, the history, because time is of the essence, and this forces me to be around good people with good knowledge and to build up my own.
I didn't mean to cut you off, John, but
No.
you were talking about sort of our beginnings and
Yeah, we had gotten together maybe a half a dozen times every couple of months and touring different lodges, just seeing what was there, educating ourselves, sharing our knowledge. And I know we always talked about trying to take the next step. We had a Facebook page, just trying to get the knowledge out there. But nothing really came of it. And then Brian and Mike came along, and you guys had the tech and the connections. You brought us the connections with Grand Madge. Not that it's been a direct connection, but at least the we'd like to see this done. And I definitely remember those first few episodes. I don't know if you did the first one or if I did the first one.
I did the first one on Masonic Pockets.
Right, okay. And I did the White Fez.
It's the White Fez.
What you had brought that day is the entire episode was completely off the cuff. Thank you very much. But it's definitely been interesting looking back at some of the episodes that have had a heck of a lot of viewers. Some of the ones that didn't do so well. So seeing what people are interested in. I know we've had some tech issues over the year. I'm saying over the years. We're not that old, but I know that per usual the shiny stuff attracts people.
Bling bling.
So the swords episodes, Knights Templar aprons.
What did get a good turn, and probably one of the quickest ones to be viewed in a short period of time, was me and the interview that I had with Right Bush for Ed at Warwick about losing the building.
Yes.
That just blew right off. It slowed down, but I think we hit 400 views in like 2 weeks.
Yep.
It just, I don't know why that one, because we really didn't show anything. We're just me and him talking about what it felt like losing the Masonic Temple.
Yeah, I think it was a tagline to it's definitely something that I think a lot of people are aware, as opposed to any, a certain artifact or something that, people go in the lodge and say, oh, that's cool. But, a lot of people hear about losing a building, and a lot of brothers, I think, are scared of losing buildings, or they think that it can never happen to them.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely of interest. We have a couple of videos picked up by various Grand Lodges that they saw swords and the chapter pennies.
The chapter pennies. I think both chapter pennies were picked up by the Grand Warlodge chapter of Pennsylvania on their website. We had a gentleman who picked up our episode on swords over the UK. There's been a couple of various other lodges that I know I've downloaded some of our videos onto their site. So yeah, it's slowly getting out there.
I think one of the interesting things we do when we go to a lodge is sort of a balance between the lodge's local history and then the stuff we bring. Because they're definitely, I know you and I bring some stuff, like we'll film some other videos today while we're here. But then some of us just walking around the lodge or digging in their attic and see what they had. And I was, hey, I know about that. Since it's got a 2 inches of dust on it, I bet you don't know about it.
That's what I find most fascinating, because I know so little about a lot of the dog packs and a lot of the history. And it's just, my great-grandfather was a charter member of their lodge in Scartown, New York, which went under. And I feel like a lot of that is lost. So every time I go through a lodge, and I listen to all of you talk about it, and we're digging through the face that already had. It connects me with the people that have put their blood, sweat, and tears into that history and that lodge. And I don't know, there's just something very special about it, Walking Crew.
The main purpose for us is to start all those through essentially to let the membership know what they had. Like, I don't think they had an understanding of the history in the lodges. So this is a way to get in the lodges, let them see what they have, and then maybe they'll take more pride.
Yeah. It definitely, because there's, as we see time and time again, I've been getting into the history of the commanders now with the Grand Commander Archives, and at the peak we had 53 or 54 commanderies. The National Redundant 22.
But we had one come back. Those ends.
But it's, you'll go to a lodge that once had, as an example, a commander, but that folded, 40, 50 years ago. So nobody remembers it. And then you find these items and they're like, what is this? It's nothing that we deal with. And then somebody finds it and says, oh, this looks cool. I think we'll take it home and put it on a wall, and then it's gone. Or, as I find up at the shrine all the time, I can tell the family opens the box, sees a fez, and he says, this is Grandpa's Shrine crap. Here, take it. And I end up with Blue Lodge, Chapter, Council, Ryokurai, Sky Shui. I've even gotten stuff from non-Masonic organizations. I got a whole group of boxes a couple of months ago and had the guys firefighter dress uniform in there. So it's like the stuff definitely travels. So it's definitely going in and digging through and finding items that you may not expect to find. I was just going through, before we filmed this, I've gone through swords.
A lot of swords.
And there were 4 commanders that merged into Coeur de Leon, which now meets here. And yet upstairs I found swords from at least 8 different commanders. And it's interesting where you find where stuff ends up.
But it's also interesting with the artifacts. You find out you had a Royal Arch Shep, you find out you had a commander, you find out Japanese star. They have a star here, Doc? Or is it barn? No. A star, and then you look around, like in the north, Masonic would be turned out in a place of darkness, but in some north buildings, you see a chair in the north with no benches here, directly across from the junior ward. That's for the East Star. So also, the groups that you mentioned, they go out, the newbies, or the youngins, as I call them today, have no idea why is a chair over here in the north. No, that's where you should start. Why is there a small lodge? And why are there 2 doors?
I was just going to mention that. Why are a small lodge?
Why, like in my building, the hallways are angles? Why just do a right angle?
Well, don't even explain that.
No. I mean, this is one of the things that I love about doing this, and also about Freemasonry, and why I love doing artifacts is especially today, as I've mentioned many times, is there's so much on the internet today.
That's a very good point, is we don't know everything.
No.
And Freemasonry, especially groups like Commandery and the Shrine, were so prolific in items that they made, both regalia, souvenirs, treated, different things. And a lot of that stuff, there was no record on it. So we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know what we don't have. So there are plenty of times where we're going to a building, we look at stuff and we're like, have you seen that? No, I've never seen one. What is that? And we'll have to leave, research it, and then hope to come back someday to talk about it.
One thing to recognize, though, is we're very fortunate to be in Massachusetts, which has a lot of history within masonry, right? There's a lot of areas of the country which don't go back over 200 years in history. We're very fortunate in this area to have a lot of the history within the lodge and the elders. There are a lot of areas of the country that don't have, 250 years of history. However, you may have 50 years of history, you have 100 years of history. You may find out why that town was built and what was the founding fathers of that town, how they were involved in the craft, if they were involved in the craft.
That's definitely a good point, because, I think back, I was raised Masonically when I was in college in Worcester, and I joined Level Lodge in Shrewsbury, which meets in a Gordon steel industrial building. The lodge dates back to the 1950s. So it's interesting. I remember when I was raised, I had some family friends who were brothers and invited them out to my raising, and they were from, their lodgements in Boston. And so they walk in and they're still looking around like, well, okay, well,
Where's the grandeur of it?
it's still a lodge. It still has its own stories. I think about the guys that were there when I was raised, but have already passed away. And I think about their stories and the stories they told, the guys they knew when they joined.
Yep.
So it's and every story is important, and unfortunately, a majority of them were lost. I grew up my entire life down the street from a Masonic building and never knew it. So I started researching. I grew up in Medford. I started researching 3 lodges that were in Medford. 2 of them met in Medford Square. I grew up in the community of West Medford, and they had their own building.
That was the old art fellows.
Exactly. I start reading about it. I'm like, wait, I know where this building is. It's right next to the fire station. So I go down there, and sure enough, the square and compass is right above the dome. Well, I do have a question, Mike and Brian. So you guys travel Masonically, you talk at conferences, podcasts. So you guys have been doing this for a while. The more public in terms of interacting with the fraternity. And then you guys were the driving force to getting us to the next level of getting these videos started. So what was your vision for it, for this, and how is that different than what you guys are doing?
I think for me, and I think for Brian, we love the stuff you guys are doing. We love how passionate you are about it. I just wanted to give you a platform to do it. I think there's plenty of people doing things in Masonry just because they have to do them, and you guys literally dedicate yourself to something you're extremely passionate about. It's something Brian and I are also passionate about, but I don't know, it's just the way you guys do it, your personalities, we just wanted to get you out there.
You're essentially, you have an artifact that you're telling a story about everything you're doing. So the lodges need to be grouped together to tell a story and involvement in the history that's happening in their camp. Every lodge has a history, and like Robert's saying, yeah, you go across the country and the lodges get newer and newer. However, you go to Lawrence, Kansas, the entire Bleeding Kansas and all that went right through that lodge. If every lodge in their town is the hub of the history of the town. And I think that's the message we're sending, and that's what we want to do here. It connect the history of the town, and it's going to help us help the lodges commemorate that history way back.
Right, so one of the things that I noticed here is, again, I wasn't involved in the very beginning, but I know Chuck pretty well. I've known him for years. He's kind of been our lodge historian, and I know you, and he introduced me to you when I was in the information within Montgomery Lodge. Now, we don't always travel between lodges, and when we do, we don't always talk about the things we're passionate about. But the Grand Lodge representatives often do see what we're passionate about and what we're interested in, and can help make those connections. Oh, you're interested in history? There's somebody in this other lodge that's maybe 45 minutes away that you might have never met, who's also just interested. Why don't you two get together and work on something? So I think having Grand Lodge, which officers who do travel, who do meet the brethren, who do understand what we're into and what we're not into, helping make those connections is enormous and tired years.
In fact, we just, on the video with the reference books that we did in Milford, a gentleman wrote in, and I just talked to Chuck last night by phone. Chuck doing okay. but he just couldn't be here with us today. Chuck has such a knowledge of Masonic artifacts. And also such a huge variety of reference book. He happens to have a book that this gentleman needs in order to write a book about Masonic blind spots. So I'm putting him in touch with Chuck, and this guy is an ex-Mountie up in Canada. So we're crossing borders here. Yep.
And let's face it, Chuck probably owns the watch file. You bring up one point that I definitely echo, that you got to speak up, because there definitely needs to be someone at the top who's willing to give you the opportunity. My successes with the shrine was, I found a box of photos in the storage room and offered to digitize them. And then 2.5, 3 years later, they have built me a museum at the shrine. That's because at the time, the leadership of the shrine was like, hey, you're passionate about this, run with it. I have equally had experiences where I offered to help with lodges and, go through the history. And I got what I call the Masonic equivalent of a cease and desist order. It was like, why are you touching our stuff? And I picked up this book and put my finger through it because it was, wet and soggy and mushy. And I almost stepped on this, 1780s membership certificate that was under a pile of trash. But, I'm just trying to help out. But, no, sorry, okay, I won't touch your stuff. So you need to find the right avenue in there. But I think just by making yourself known as somebody who's interested, serious about what they're doing, because there's definitely plenty of people who come up to me and say, oh yeah, you collect old stuff. And I was like, yeah. Oh, you find any past master jewels or past commander swords? But no, those are gone by the time we get to me, and I'm interested in all the stuff that nobody wants. And then I clean it up, hang it on the wall, and then all of a sudden it becomes interesting.
It's all about history, not just yours. And that's what a lot of people look at. This is mine. Well, it's not. It's not. It's all about it.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't get.
I think a lot of times a majority of people are well-intentioned, that they want, so that's why I think you need to be respectful, sit down and just say, this is who I am, I'm willing to help. I think that's one of the things with us that I hope to get out of this is to encourage other people to take those steps and say, hey, we need to do something.
Doug's done a wonderful, twice now, he's let us walk around the building and then up in the attic, and he's been a great host. Really, and I wish we had more guys like him at the fraternity that would say, yeah, come on in. He's hosted us twice more, no complaints. He's only going to be on once, and he said that's fine by me today. He's been really cordial, and I think we really need other guys like that help at the fraternity and say, yeah, come on in, look at that stuff. What do I have? Like you did. What do I have? And Paul, we just talked about that. Paul Evans, just commented about the sword. It was the $2,000 sword that I said, Paul, you should be waving that around as tired. So that's a $2,000 sword.
And it's not for any intentional lack of understanding, right? It becomes your home, so you kind of pick up things, they move them around, and you don't always realize if you don't see it every day. And if you don't understand the speed, you might not know the importance of it.
I will say it's been great going to different lodges, meeting brothers who are Apache. Some of the lodges we visited in Rhode Island, where you have a majority of their members who were super interested in history.
Well, they think it's natural that we roll into where we're doing a mass. Like what's on the agenda?
We've been trying to get to Gloucester, but because of our scheduling, and a lot hinders on now with Randy, and also with Chuck, because they're two camera guys, we're now up against, the summer coming.
We need to get that to New Bedford.
But we got to get somewhere where it's acreage if we're going to do summertime, because we don't know what the humidity is.
Well, the other thing is, you sort of play back and forth, because now we have such a backlog of episodes. Like this one is going to be out of order. We'll see this for our 100th episode. then it'll go back to another group, and then the rest of these videos we filmed today will be, you know, somewhere else. Which is, it's interesting how the timeline ends up working out.
What I think we should do, especially now, is for all the brothers out there in New England, right? If you have some interesting things in your lodge you want us to come visit, let us know. Reach out to us on the YouTube channel or on Facebook.
You can contact us on the YouTube channel in the comments. You can contact us on our Facebook page. And also we have our own Gmail address. It's Masonic Preservation Society at gmail.com. So yeah, there's 3 ways of contacting us.
Send us your questions. If you have a lodge in the area you want us to come visit, it'd be awesome.
If you like this episode, follow us on Facebook, Masonic Curators. Well, folks, I think we wrapped this up. Yes, peace out. Thank you very much again for those who watch us. I can't thank you enough. You know, we all sit and maybe joke and laugh and anything else. You know, serious. Yes, the most important thing for me is if you all out there in the YouTube world that watch us, tell your friends, tell your brethren. The main thing is get the word. We're not doing this just to be show off, so egoism.
I hate hearing my own recorded voice.
But it's the information. And Doug is going to be on. We're going to talk about something today, which is really cool. And he shared a lot of information from the past about this lodge, which a lot of people haven't watched. And I mean, the ballot box they talked about is phenomenal. I think that the best used, and of course the Paul Revere jewels, which is typical. But all this is good information, Craig. Even if your lodge is new in Nyland and Massachusetts jurisdiction, you know, you can learn something here. So, but share it, pass the word, get the word out about it. We love it.